92.7 Urban Lifestyle Radio Station.
Hello, good evening and welcome to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition coming to you live from our studio here at Adesawe Kanda in Accra. I am Martin Asiedu-Dartey. Coming up this evening, economists warn that the Ghana cedi could fall to 13 to the dollar and are urging swift action to halt the decline after Bloomberg ranks it the worst performing currency in the third quarter of 2025. Also coming up, several individuals, including teachers, students, and invigilators, arrested in a nationwide clampdown on examination malpractice in the ongoing West Africa Examination Certificate exam. Well, that is the WASSCE. We'll bring you details of that report. And later, MultiChoice Ghana agrees to reduce prices of its packages as government sets up committee to look into fair pricing. And later, Tamale Central gears up to host the NDC parliamentary primary ahead of the September 30 by-election. We'll take you there for the very latest. We're live around the world on 3news.com. Do be a part of the show. Let's hear your messages on the many stories we have for you tonight on our Facebook page. Just look for 3FM 92.7 and you can share your messages with us. This is Hot Edition. Details in a jiffy. Let's settle for the details now, and the issues about the Ghanaian cedi have started dominating public conversation, and economic analysts have warned that without urgent and coordinated interventions, the Ghanaian cedi could further depreciate, potentially nearing 13 Ghana cedis to the dollar. The cedi this week became the worst performing currency in the third quarter, according to Bloomberg, despite its strong showing at the beginning of the year. Financial experts say a surge in demand for dollars by companies paying for imports has ended the cedi's strong performance. The forecast is coming after the local currency depreciated sharply in August to 11.7 cedis to the dollar due to tight foreign exchange liquidity. Currently, the Bank of Ghana is quoting the local currency at 11 cedi 96 pesos to $1 American dollar. However, the cedi is going for 13 Ghana cedis at the Forex Bureau. This has cancelled some of the cedi's 50% gain and saw it ranked as the world's best performer in the 3 months through to June. The underlying structural issues are driving the persistent depreciation of the cedi, and we'll shortly be finding out how this is likely to affect the import and export business and generally how the Ghanaian economy will be faring. Later, we'll have that conversation on this issue. Let's go on to some other stories now. And MultiChoice Ghana has accepted to reduce the prices of its packages to Ghanaians. The decision follows pressure from the Communications Ministry for MultiChoice operators of DSTV to give Ghanaians fair pricing as compared to what other countries in Africa are enjoying. The ministry had given DSTV up until tomorrow, the 6th of September, to provide data that showed that the components of DSTV's pricing was actually not in a disadvantage to Ghana. The company had defaulted twice, deadlines given to it by the ministry. But at a press conference earlier today, the Minister for Communications, Sam George, confirmed that DSTV had responded and given the ministry the data requested. He further said that with the receipt of the data, a committee had been set up to configure fair pricing, and it is expected to release its findings in 14 days. That will be on the 21st of September 2025. Let's listen to the Minister, Sam George, who spoke to the media a few minutes ago.
The 30-day deadline given to multi-choice by the NCA expires tomorrow, 6 September 2025. It will be recalled that the NCA had requested for a breakdown of the cost build-up for the various bouquet offerings by multi-choice in Ghana and in 7 other African countries on the 4th of August 2025. That information was not delivered by multi-choice. This led to the consequential imposition of a 10,000 Ghana cedi daily fine effective 14th of August 2025 in line with the dictates of the Electronic Communications Act on Multi-Choice Ghana. The regulator also served a 30-day notice of suspension effective 7th of August 2025. However, ahead of the expiration of the suspension notice tomorrow, Multi-Choice yesterday reached out to the ministry and the regulator, indicating now a willingness to comply to address the pricing concerns through a consultative process as was adopted by the ministry with the MNOs during the data pricing reduction exercise. Consequently, we've taken the decision to immediately establish a stakeholder committee comprising representatives from the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, the regulator, the NCA, Multi-Choice Ghana, and Multi-Choice Africa. I will personally chair the committee. Multi-Choice has requested a 30-day window for the committee to arrive at what percentage of reduction will be achieved. So let's be clear. They have finally accepted that there will be a reduction. Now they want us to discuss the level of reduction. I believe, as minister, that we do not need 30 days. 14 days is enough for us to reach this decision, inclusive of weekends. Therefore, the committee has a strict 14-day mandate, inclusive of weekends, to conclude its work and present a suitable price reduction structure for the people of Ghana by the 21st of September 2025. The government is mindful that there is currently an acquisition, in this case there is an acquisition, of Multi-Choice Africa by the Canal Plus Group by end of September 2025. I have therefore held engagements with Canal Plus and secured their confirmation that they will abide by any agreements that the stakeholder committee we're setting up today reaches with Multi-Choice Ghana. They'll be bound by the reductions that we agree. I also have the commitment that Ghana will be placed as a priority on Canal Plus's management's playbook, and Ghana will be the first country they will visit for us to have conversations on possible further reductions when Canal Plus also takes over. You can be rest assured, by 21st of September, we would have arrived at a destination that sees Ghanaians pay less than they currently pay for their multi-choice bouquets. In light of transparency and accountability, we'll make the report of the committee available to the public by 21st of September when that committee is done with its work. But we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. However, the NCA still has the mandate to ensure that they collect what is due from the fines that we imposed on Multi-Choice for the almost 24 days before they provided the information that they did not provide the information. 10,000 cedis a day for 24 days. Thank you very much.
And that is Sam Nate George, the Minister for Communication, and he spoke a few minutes ago to the media, giving us an update on two key things. One having to do with the pricing of DSTV and its packages, and then also the fact that government intends to merge AT&T, that is Airtel Tigo, with Telecel. If you go to our website 3news.com, you get the full details of that particular presser by the communications minister. Let's take a step back to our earlier story having to do with the Ghanaian cedi and how it's performing against the US dollar in the early part of the year, especially from January through February up until a few weeks ago. The cedi was touted as the best performing currency globally. And looks as though the last few days the cedi has had a very shaky awakening, making it, according to Bloomberg, one of the weak currencies, or the currencies that are performing abysmally. What exactly is accounting for this? Because as we speak, some forex bureaus are quoting 11 cedi 96 pesos to the US dollar, and there are projections that it's likely to even hit 13 cedis. You would recall that before this government came in, at some point the cedi was hovering around 17 cedis, or almost about 15 at least. So what exactly is causing the cedi to depreciate against the dollar? Wisdom Safo is with our research desk. He's joined us in studio for a quick chat on this. Wisdom, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good evening.
So talk to us. What is the data pointing to?
So, Martin, if you all recall, when the cedi started appreciating, it was a good news for us. We saw the petrol prices reducing because our fuel are directly tied with the exchange rate. So it was a good news to all Ghanaians. But we woke up to rather an unfortunate news. The cedi is no longer the best performing currency. We have to look at this in two ways. So if you look at it from the beginning of the year to now, it's actually one of the best performing currencies if you have to look at the first half of the year. But if you just take quarter three, quarter three starts from June, July, August, even into September. If you take quarter three, it is the worst performing currency, depreciating by 13.4% according to Bloomberg. So if you rank them, the cedi is the worst performing, followed closely by the Argentine peso and the Botswana pula. So the cedi is the worst performing currency in quarter three, not from the beginning of the year to now. Just if you just take quarter three, yes, that's the worst performing currency. So this Bloomberg actually attributed this to three main reasons. Causing the depreciation or the sharp decline in the value of the cedi. They attributed the first one to the surge in dollar demand for imports. We all know this dynamics and how it comes to play when we are talking about the demand for forex. So we import our goods in dollars. We need dollars to import these goods. So importers go to the commercial banks, BOGR, to give them forex. So it's a demand and supply thing. So if you are demanding more of a dollar price goods, it means it forces your cedi to decline in value. They also looked at limited supply of forex to the central bank. So the central banks have to give the forex to these exporters, or actually to increase money supply, you have to increase amount of forex in the system. So if there is less supply of forex in the system, it tends to make it more expensive. So it increases the dollar rate, or increases the rate of the dollar in the local market. So if there's a limited supply too, it also causes a depreciation of the cedi. And finally, they also attributed it to the corporate forex demand outpacing supply. So as I said, it's a demand and supply something. If a lot of people want the dollar, it makes the dollar more expensive, hence appreciation of the dollar. So that's what Bloomberg attributed the current or the sharp depreciation of the cedi to. So as you rightly mentioned, some of the forex bureaus are showing rates. The buying rates currently stands around 12 cedis, 50 pesos, and the selling rate currently stands at 13 cedis 10 pesos. So that's the dynamic.
Right. So that's what, according to Bloomberg, I mean, there will definitely be questioning us regarding why would these be the parameters that Bloomberg is using. But in the local economy, has government done anything specifically to jolt the appreciation of the cedi? Because like we indicated from the beginning of the year, it was one of the best performing globally, and then it sustained that appreciation up until the third quarter, like you indicated. What must have caused it, and how is it that all of a sudden there is an increase in demand for the forex for certainly importation of things like crude, etc.? What is jolting it?
So I was doing some deep reading, and it had to do with when we are going to the end of the year. That's when Christmas is coming, the festive seasons. So a lot of importers, that's where the peak season is. So they will demand more forex this time, because if you go and order your things from abroad at this time, it might come around December. So I mean, looking at the shipping time and all that, so you have to demand the forex this time to import the goods. So there are a lot of people going in for the forex or going in for the dollars to go and purchase this good. That was a little research that I did. But you remember President Mahama saying that we have to determine the true value of the cedi, such that he thinks, or together with the finance minister and the BOG governor, thinks that the true value of the cedi lies between 10 to 12 Ghana cedis. Well, some analysts may disagree, but they are saying it also would not be a very fair appreciation of the value of the cedi if we let it appreciate to a certain level as high as 4 cedis to the US dollar. It's going to hurt exports as well. Because take note, remember recently there was a cocoa conversation such that the FOB price, about 70% were given to the cocoa farmer, but yet still they were getting less value in terms of what the local pricing. So there is a very sensitive dynamics that you have to take note of. Yeah, but the governor, the BOG governor, said that we shouldn't worry, and they have everything under control. So let's see what is ahead.
How all of this will play out in the coming days. Thank you very much. Wisdom Safo with our research desk here at Media General, trying to tell us what the numbers are saying. And if you're following us on Facebook, you can see that we have actually projected how the cedi is performing against the other international currencies, and specifically with the US dollar. It is hovering between 11 cedis and 13 cedis. The pound is hovering around 16.5 to 17.5. So those are the key two major trading currencies that Ghana or Ghanaian exporters and importers rely on for business, especially the dollar. Let's speak to economist who has joined us on the line, Professor Patrick Asuming. He's joined us via Zoom for a quick chat. Prof, good evening. Thank you for your time. Most economists agree on the underlying factors driving the cedi's depreciation against the dollar. But the question is this surprising at the rate of depreciation, especially the fact that we had enjoyed some appreciation and then now all of a sudden we are seeing that the cedi is struggling against the major trading currencies?
Good evening, and good evening to listeners. Thanks for having me. I think, in a sense, this was highly expected. When the currency appreciated sharply, especially in the second quarter, there was a clear sense that it has gone too far. And at some point, some correction will be needed. And it seems that part of what is happening is the correction that many economists had expected to happen, because the appreciation went a little too far, and a little too far too quickly. So you've seen that now when you have this kind of appreciation, we see an impact on remittances, because the people who send in their inflows, the Ghanaians who send their inflows, they would have noticed that the cedi amount they are getting is lower. Meanwhile, prices haven't really gone down commensurate with the appreciation. So, there's been a holdback in terms of the remittances. And then, of course, for the business person, when the currency is strong, it's time to cash in by trying to import early. So that, among other things, are the reasons why we're beginning to see that correction. So for me, it's not too much to worry about. I think I always expected that this kind of correction will happen because the appreciation was a little too much.
And would you agree? So is it that there was the appreciation and the current depreciation was not artificial? It wasn't that government had manipulated and done some theatrics, for which reason the cedi started appreciating, and you used the word sharply, and then now we are seeing a depreciation. Was it organic?
Well, it's clear that the central bank had intervened heavily in the market to bring the currency where it was. So you see, we had built a lot of reserves through our gold accumulation, as well as the fact that the world price of gold is extremely high. So the central bank, together, I'm sure working with the finance ministry, decided that they are going to support the cedi. So in essence, that's what happened. You know, the massive injection and the intervention in the market is really what drove the currency to the rate that it was. So I think, note that I don't think, I don't think the BOG doesn't have the reserve to support the cedi at the rate it was. But the IMF and the World Bank have expressed concern about the level of intervention. So that's why the BOG has reduced its intervention. And without that intervention, we obviously know the cedi will return to its true value. So whoever it was not its true value.
Okay. And what is the immediate impact on the economy? I mean, like you indicated, at the time there was the depreciation. When the cedi was appreciating, people were asking for price reduction. Fuel prices started coming down. There was some semblance of, good economic outturn for many Ghanaians. Now that this is happening, how does that directly or indirectly affect the economy?
Well, I think that, the immediate thing you see will be the impact on fuel prices. I think we've already begun to see the last window prices begin to inch up. Note that when the currency was appreciating, that was the immediate impact we saw, driving down fuel prices. There was always a sense. I don't think many Ghanaian businesses bought into the idea that the cedi was going to remain at the 10.5 range. So that's why there was that reluctance to cut prices. But unfortunately, now that the currency appears to be depreciating, the prices will keep going up, because you hear people say in economies that prices are sticky downwards and flexible upwards. When conditions demand that prices go down, the pricing structure, the pricing behavior of the Ghanaian business person, brings some inertia, and the prices don't go down. But the moment there's a sense that the prices should go up, then it goes up almost immediately. So now there will be an expectation that perhaps the cedi will keep depreciating, and that self-fulfilling prophecy will actually lead to higher prices. So we might begin to see some prices go up, probably not as substantially, because
Okay, maybe before you take leave of, and my last question would be that, does government have any monetary strategy to arrest this sudden depreciation? Is there anything government can do, or probably like some are advising, just leave the cedi to find its true value? Hello, Prof. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost Professor Patrick Asuming there. He is an economist and senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, trying to help us appreciate what exactly is happening to the cedi now that over the last few days it had seen a depreciation against the international trading currencies. But what exactly does this mean for importers and exporters? And clearly, one of the key things that is likely to be the first to be affected would be fuel prices, like Professor Patrick Asuming indicated. But how does export and import play in this whole conversation? Joining us now is Samson Asakia Wingobit, Executive Director for the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. Mr. Wingobit, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM. What do you make of the cedi's performance against the dollar especially, and how does this affect you and your colleague importers and exporters?
Well, thank you very much, Martin, and good evening and good evening to your listeners and viewers and to our Professor Usmani. I must say that everywhere, everybody is raising the issues. Some are raising it is very legitimate, some are raising it for political sake. Let me say particularly that the government also has a duty to also meet with Ghanaian exporters halfway. You remember when the cedi was at 10.2 consistently, the Ghanaian Federation of Ghanaian Exporters went to the presidency to also appeal to the president. And in that speech, the president said that they are looking at where the capacity is between 11 to 12 cities, so that it can win. It should be a win-win situation, because when it was 10.2, importers were enjoying so much, and when they come to 11 now, as we speak, then black market at 12 cities, you see importers are also complaining, then exporters are also silent. Silent because it is not only exporters are silent, the returns too are silent, because mind you, at that time, those who remit to Ghana, to their relatives, also kept happy to keep their dollars. Remember, they used to bring $1, $2, and then you were changing a rate of $1 to 16 cedis. Many people were bringing fewer dollars and were making millions of Ghana cedis. Many people were bringing $4 and changing, converting it anytime the cedi appreciated and the cedi depreciated, then they change and they make a lot of millions of Ghana cedis. But when the government came, the government picked it at 13 or so. They brought it to 12, they brought it to 10.2, and it was there for like 3 to 4 months. So at that range, those are brothers and sisters who have exported as were supposed to bring back their proceeds. But they were also looking, if I bring 20,000, I was going to make almost 1 million. Now I bring 20,000, I'm making less than 50,000. So I will not bring it. So they will keep it. Meanwhile, we have a mandatory return. 30 days, a start 60 days, or 90 days, perhaps. Then you're supposed to bring a band or sales proceeds of your export. Then, of course, those are brothers and sisters who are also having projects go on, knowing that my total value 1 million. So I have like 30,000 or 40,000. If I bring it to Ghana, I can hit 1 million. So that can be help me to build my, or to execute my project. But realizing that no, if I bring that $200,000 or $30,000, I wasn't going to get anything beyond that. Then I better kept my money there. So it's a win-win situation now. It's why I've heard that Bloomberg, that was positioned yesterday, traveling sent over to come back with their own point. I don't know how true it is. But as I can tell you, the government has a duty to also protect the Ghanaian, ordinary Ghanaian, also protect the exporters as well, and also serve the importers. And so it's a win-win situation, and that is where we find ourselves at this point in time. But I am of the view, very optimistic that when it hits 12 cities, it will stay like the way the 10.2 came to stay. We have it. The only problem we are having is that the commercial banks should have the dollars to sell. If the proceeds come, if the exports return their proceeds, the exporters return their proceeds, if the remitters bring in their remittances, that is to stay within the bank. Commercial banks should not upload the forex to Alaji, and when we put in currency, looking for the forex to transfer to pay our partners or our suppliers,
right,
then they end up asking you to go to Alaji. But I think that the bank of us should also go further, additional steps, to also encourage commercial banks to have affiliate banks in the US, in the UK, in China, and the rest. If I'm transferring, yes, come in.
Yes, I just want to find out from you. I mean, we also know that one of the reasons why the cedi is depreciating, really is because there is an increase in demand for the foreign currency around this time to import things into the country, especially because we are going into the Christmas period.
That is what I was trying to address, and you cut in. I was trying to say that the banks, because I know some one or two banks, I will not mention their names, because I wouldn't want you to tell me that come for invoice and things because I made adverts for them. However, I think that there are banks that we know that if you put your money in that bank, and if you give the opportunity to make an example like Family Bank, you put in your Ghana cedis there, you can pay your Chinese counterpart with the RMB. So you don't need to actually look for dollar and go pay Chinese when you're doing transaction in China.
Right.
If you want the Bank of Ghana to also encourage other banks to also have sister companies, sister banks in the other countries, so that we don't even need to put Ghana cedis, cases to buy hard currency, hard dollars, and then now bring to your bank that they should transfer.
Okay.
I put in 1 million or 2 million Ghana cedis, they should be able to convert it to pay for the correspondent bank there.
Okay.
Their correspondent bank should be able to pay to my supplier for me direct. And
Okay.
so if we are able to do this, then people fiscal dollars to buy will reduce. And of course, this Avagi will be thing of the past. That's the only way that can curb up this issue that we are fighting now. We are doing firefighting.
Right.
The point here is that it's true we are importing so much. Remember that Ghana is spending over $400 million importing frozen chicken to this country. Ghana is spending over $300 million importing rice into this country.
Okay.
And so the measure that the government is also putting in place, the Akwanchekite, the Peace Ghana and whatever, if that is done properly, really over 2 years, and we have more poultry, we have more rice in the system, then we can cut half of this amount of money.
Okay.
That would change the agenda. Of course, we will have a proper stability in our currency. But I can tell you that government is also pushing, because we have met with the Bank of Ghana and they told us what they intend to do. And I'm sure you've seen some of the restrictions, some of the interventions they're making.
Yes.
As to speak, tap pay and others, tap send and others has been suspended. I think UBA or so bank has been suspended in the month of September. And then of course the Bank of Ghana has also issued a directive to the commercial bank to say no one to come, no big large organizations like the mining companies, some shipping companies will not be able to come to the bank and say, I want to withdraw large sum of dollars.
Okay. We would have to leave it here for now. Thank you so much for your expert thoughts on this. Certainly, it's an avenue or an area that you really have expert opinions on, and we are happy that you could share them with us. Samson Asaki Awingobit is the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. You listening to us, what do you make of the city's performance over the last few days, and the fact that many say it is one of the weakest performing currencies globally? We'll be happy to hear your thoughts on our Facebook page, 3FM on 92.7. This is Hot Edition. Stay with us. When we return, the big conversation about education in the country, the West Africa Senior School Certificate Examination, WASSCE, has come under the scrutiny, where WAEC is saying that a number of people have been arrested and being investigated for their involvement in unscrupulous developments having to do with Ghana's educational system. Details of that and more right after this.
Hello, Ghana. It's a new year and Bill's Microcredit is here to support your dreams. If you're not working but want to start a business, don't let money stop you. With just your Ghana card, you can get a loan to turn your ideas into reality. Already running a business? Need more capital? Or are you a salary worker looking for extra funds? Bill's offers fast and easy loans with no collateral, no deposit, and no SUSI savings required. Wherever you are, whatever you need, Bills makes it happen. Call Bills Microcredit today. Call 0596 920 833 or 0302 200 390 and get started. Bills is licensed and regulated by the Bank of Ghana. Bills, financing your needs. Terms and conditions apply.
You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. It is Hot Edition live from our studio here at Adisawe Kanda in Accra. Let's go on to one of our headline stories we have for you this evening, having to do with education, because 14 individuals, including teachers, students, and invigilators, have been arrested across the country for their alleged involvement in examination malpractices during the ongoing West Africa Senior School Certificate Examination, the WASSCE. the number is expected to rise as investigations continue. WASSCE further cautioned that results from the affected schools will be subjected to thorough scrutiny. The arrests were recorded at various centers, including Yeji Senior High School, Abbott College in Asante Bekwai, and Echuma Kwamoma Presbyterian Senior High School. The West Africa Examination Council, WASSCE, has also shut down the Adventist Day Senior High School Examination Center in Kumasi after multiple mobile phones were confiscated from candidates. Let's hear the head of public affairs at the West Africa Examination Council, John Kapi, who addressed the media a few earlier today, raising this issue as one of the key things they are undertaking to ensure that they rid the examination process of some of these unscrupulous individuals.
Teams have unearthed a series of irregular activities at a number of the examination centers. These include, but not limited to, the following. 1. 2 persons were arrested for impersonation at Ghana College, Kaswa. They were arraigned before court and have been sentenced to 6 months imprisonment each, while their accomplice was sentenced to 8 months imprisonment. The proprietor of Christian IPS Kukrantumi, as well as one of his invigilators, have been arrested for creating a WhatsApp group on which they shared snapshots of questions and solutions to the questions. They have been handed over to the police for further investigations. Ebenezer Finn was arrested at St. Vincent College, Abradunkwa, for impersonation. He has also been arraigned before court. Hannah Lariba, a student of Yeji Senior High School, was arrested for impersonation at the Steps to Destiny Senior High School in Yeji. Another impersonator, Mumuni Abdul Hafiz, bolted before the monitoring team could apprehend him. Mr. Kodua Desmond was arrested at Abbott College, Asante Bekwai. He was handed over to the police and subsequently arraigned before court. He had been remanded into police custody for 2 weeks. Osei Asibe-Daniel was arrested at Echuma Kwamoma Presbyterian SHS for impersonation. He has been handed over to the police. Raymond Kwasi was arrested at Echuma Kwamoma Presbyterian SHS for contracting Osei Asibe-Daniel to write the examination on behalf of Obin Dapa Emmanuel. Maxwell Chamba and Amaglo Livingston were arrested at Sefa Bonsu Royal SHS EG for impersonation.
So that's the voice of John Kapi, who is the head of public affairs at WASSCE, in that media interaction, giving further details of what exactly led to the arrests and how their investigations are currently ongoing and what they intend to do next. Let's engage the thoughts of Kofi Asare, who's the executive director of the Africa Education Watch. Mr. Asare, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Hello, good evening, and good evening to everyone there.
This certainly does not come to you as a surprise, right? Considering the fact that this is not the first, second, or 10th time we are hearing that examinations have taken place or are taking place, and some individuals are trying to circumvent the system to their personal gains.
I mean, it's no news. I mean, it's a regular occurrence. I want to congratulate WASSCE for the good work. They have serious capacity constraints. They need over 200 more people to enable them act much more efficiently. But within the constraints of human resource, they are able to pull through and then show up in some of the places and take action. I must admit that as we have been monitoring WASSCE as well from over 100 schools, and in terms of the number of people that have been caught, not the impersonation ones, but then the ones that have been caught for more practice, I can say that from the evidence we are picking on the ground, the numbers we are hearing from WASSCE are just a fraction of what is happening. But we understand that they have huge challenges. 2 years ago, WASSCE was only able to be present at every center 20%, more or less. WASSCE were able to deploy their own staff or agents to centers in only 20% of the centers due to the capacity constraint. So they have to move from point A to point B. And by the time they leave point A and get to point B, point A is already free for all. That's the challenge that we have. But we hope that if they're able to get the needed support and expand their human resource base, they should be able to have a much more expansive monitoring system for the WASSCE.
And the concern some have raised regarding this year's arrest is the fact that this is actually ongoing, like the examination was ongoing, and then they took the initiative to arrest these individuals who were perpetrating these illegalities. What would your advice be regarding the total prevention, even before exams start? Are there guardrails they can put in place to reduce or probably even prevent any form of malpractice at all from happening?
Well, I'm afraid, having studied this business of malpractice for some time now, I would say that we are always, doing catch-up. Yes. WAEC is doing their best, but all they are doing is just catch-up. As I'm saying, what you are hearing is just a fraction, less than 1%. They are doing catch-up because the setting is so expansive, it has become a subculture. And, there are many others. Yesterday, for instance, I'm told that WAEC made accosted some teachers, some invigilators and the students at Accra High. But it wasn't part of this briefing, perhaps because it happened too late, I don't know. But this is just a fraction, as I'm saying. There's a lot taking place. And I can tell you that the level of collusion in our system only becomes public if WAEC is able themselves to be present. And their capacity to do so is hugely constricted. So this is just a fraction. Let me take your mind to last year. WAEC made a presentation to Parliament. In their presentation, they indicated that in 2023, out of about 40,000 cases of collusion, that were detected, less than 2% of the cases were reported by invigilators or supervisors who were in the examination hall, which means that WAEC relies on its software, its collusion software through the scrutiny of scripts to detect up to 98% of what takes place in the room. So it tells you that, I'm saying, what they are reporting is a fraction. And so for us, we are happy some action is being taken. I'm particularly happy that for the first time in many years, we are seeing people who took part in an examination fraud during the social studies paper already convicted and starting to serve their jail term. It took just 1 week. Social studies was earlier last week, and then by today, they had already been sentenced by a Kaswa High Court, 3 of them, with prison terms. I think that is one significant thing I've seen, and I want to encourage speedy prosecution of all those that are accosted, that are apprehended by WAEC and the security agencies. But we'll continue to call the Ministry of Education to strengthen WAEC's capacity to deploy to every center at any point, at any particular, during any particular paper, so that we can have much more strengthened external supervision of the examination.
Okay, and maybe my final question: how does this affect the generality of our exams? Would you say, following the yearly arrests and complaints about malpractices, it gives a certain negative picture about the assessment of our exams generally, or really and truly there isn't that kind of impact on the final outcome of the students who write these papers?
It does impact. I know many universities in Ghana who do not accept students from certain schools. Yes, I know some universities do not accept students from certain schools because they know that those schools are WASSCE tourism schools. School where you just go and you get results once you've paid. You understand? Yes. And so it will get to a point where, the credibility in the paper, the results, becomes very, very questionable. Very, very, very questionable. And we are not too far from there, because I'm saying that there are schools There are universities in this country that do not accept students from the same schools because they know how results are procured from those schools. So when we say integrity deficit, when we say that in the long term, if we don't act decisively, and if we don't be in the front, and rather we keep doing catch-up chasing after these forces, it will get to the point where the credibility of the WASSCE, certificate will be widely questionable. For now, it is questionable by so many agencies. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think that no University of Ghana admits a student to do medicine or pharmacy without they doing entrance exams when the book came with WASSCE results? Why do you think so? So the battle is already on our hands, and so we have no option than to fight it. Other than that, it causes all of us. If we don't tackle examination malpractice by the horn, if we don't criminalize many other actions that are not yet criminalized at law by amending the WAEC law to expand the scope of criminalization, to get to a point, and then we don't resource WAEC to do the work they have to do very well, to get to a point where we are not too far from there, that WASSCE fraud, BC fraud will consume us, just like Alam says, because they both are driven by one, which is greed.
Well, thank you for at least helping us understand what the key concerns and issues are this evening, and your expert thoughts as always. We've been speaking to Kofi Asare, who's the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch. And if you're a ward, I beg your pardon, if you're a parent or a guardian, what do you make of these developments, and at least the proactiveness that has just been commended by Kofi Asare of WAEC, at least taking action to try and arrest these perpetrators, and the fact that it is a yearly occurrence? How can we stem this tide? Do let us know in the comment section, and we'll be happy to share with the rest of the world. This is still 3FM 92.7, and we stay on issues of education because the Minister in charge of Education, Haruna Idrisu, has appealed for a collective effort to sustain government's no-fee stress policy, a social intervention aiming to lift financial restrictions to tertiary education. He has proposed that 2.5% of all oil revenues be dedicated to funding the policy to avoid over-reliance on the annual budget. Christian Yali has more in this report.
For Foragia, over 120,000 students have received a reimbursement of their funds under the no-fees stress policy, with some 23,000 still facing validation challenges. At stakeholder engagement on the program, the Education Minister touted the initiative as a major social intervention by the current government.
Without any fear of contradiction, we have responded to a social need of the Ghanaians. The Ghanaian parent and the Ghanaian student, President John Dramani Mahama, have responded adequately with the introduction of the no-fee stress.
He says the initiative must be sustained and as such needs a dedicated funding.
We must sustain the no-fee stress by all means possible and practicable. But I disagree that you should be at the mercy of budget. And my own notion and thinking is that Ghana should dedicate 2.5% of our oil revenue into supporting human capital. And that 2.5% of oil revenue should be dedicated to scholarships and bursaries. And the bursaries should deal with no-fee stress.
Chief of the Student Loans Trust Fund, Dr. Sajida Shiraz, says efforts are underway to reimburse the remaining beneficiaries with validation challenges.
So far, we have and yet to pay about 22,000 more students. There are about a number of students who have validation issues, about 23,000 by my last count. Everybody who applied for the no-fee stress policy is accounted for. So you have our assurance that we are working to reimburse those who are yet to be reimbursed.
Stakeholders like the Africa Education Watch want government to ensure beneficiaries under STEM programs are adequately paid.
If you go to the University of Ghana, for instance, medicine, only 5 students doing medicine are regular. 95% are fee-paying. If you go to UHAS, fee-paying medicine are paying up to 12,000, level 100. Regular are paying over 8,000. The no-fee stress policy, with its good intentions, is not covering these expenses in full. I'm talking about tuition fee. I'm not bringing accommodation in here.
According to Kofi Asare, the proposal to dedicate 2.5% of oil revenue to financing the policy must properly be looked at.
It's good to have a dedicated funding source for such important policies. But the challenge is that currently the Parliament has passed a law committing oil revenues to the big push. And so we are unable to have the 2.5%. The conversation must take place and continue at the cabinet level. Because I believe that it is not secured enough to commit all ABFE, all oil revenues, to just one intervention called big push.
Across the divide, many have lauded the policy as one that would open access to tertiary education.
And you heard Christian Yali with that report. This is still 3FM's Hot Edition coming to you from our studio here in Addis Ababa, Kanda, Accra. Time now for the latest in the world of business.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. Coming up tonight, Bank of Ghana suspends 5 international money transfer operators, citing unauthorized dealings with UBA Ghana and fintech partners over breaches of inward remittance guidelines. My name is Menu Afo. We have details of this and more coming up shortly. Now, the details. The Bank of Ghana has suspended the remittance partnership of 5 money transfer operators for 1 month. Now, in a statement, the central bank cited regulatory breaches linked to their settlement bank, UBA Ghana, and some payment service providers. The move, the bank says, is part of efforts to safeguard the integrity of Ghanaian foreign exchange markets. There's more in the following 3 Business News Desk report.
The central bank says, effective September 18, 2025, the affected operators TapTapSend, Top Connect, Remit Choice, Send Up, and AfriX will not be permitted to undertake remittance transactions for 1 month. According to the bank, the sanctions follow breaches of its updated guidelines on inward remittance services. The fractions involved unauthorized activities carried out with payment service providers such as Helges Financial Technologies, Cellulant Limited, and Flutterwave through their settlement bank, UBA Ghana. The Bank of Ghana explained that the operators will only be allowed to resume remittance activities after their partners reapply and are approved following the suspension period. Meanwhile, the central bank has cautioned all players in the foreign exchange market to strictly comply with applicable forex regulations and guidelines. The development comes at a time when inward remittances remain a vital source of foreign exchange inflows for the Ghanaian economy, supporting households and contributing to the stability of the local currency.
That was a 3 Business News Desk report on the Bank of Ghana suspending forex trading license of UBA as well as 5 international money transfer operators, citing unauthorized dealings. In more news this evening, President of the Chartered Insurance Institute of Ghana, Solomon Lartey, has cautioned that insurance professionals who engage in unethical practices risk being blacklisted and delisted from the industry. At a 5th edition of the CIIG Awards in Accra, he revealed that the institute is collaborating with the Ministry of Education to secure a charter which will give it stronger regulatory powers to strictly enforce professional standards.
Once the knowledge and understanding of insurance is improved, then professionalism comes to the fore. But sometimes, because people don't even understand the rudiments of insurance, selling it as it is becomes a problem. So there's a lot of mis-selling and misunderstanding, what I call the sins of insurance agents and insurance salespeople that we are trying to, like I mentioned, exercise from the system. But the NIC has been at the forefront of sanctions, mainly to companies. But the CIG is the one to sanction individuals and to blacklist you or to delist you from practicing insurance. And let me tell you this, we are working with the Ministry of Education. Thank you to the Minister of Education, Haruna. We are getting a charter, and once that is done, regulation, if you like, of insurance professionals will be a lot more stringent. So if you don't do the right thing, you'll be delisted. You'll not be able to practice insurance in Ghana or anywhere. But if you do the right thing, we will recognize you like we have recognized others here.
You heard over there the president of the Chartered Insurance Institute of Ghana, Solomon Lati. Meanwhile, CIIG Insurance Professional of the Year and Managing Director of Serene Insurance, Mercy Nakoshi Bwampong, has urged the industry to prioritize business continuity over concerns about the sector's low penetration, which currently hovers around 1% of GDP. Speaking to 3 Business, she stressed the need to focus discussions on the value of claims paid and the industry's contribution to sustaining businesses in Ghana and supporting overall commercial growth.
I think the industry's focus should not be about contribution, 1% contribution, but the contribution to ensuring business continuity in Ghana. We have to start talking about how much claims, how much we are contributing to the survival of industries within Ghana, how much we are contributing to the growth of commerce within Ghana. Because when it comes to marine trade, we are an importing company. We also do export. Insurers are insuring exports so that when exports go wrong, the farmers, the exporters have something to rely on. We are not talking about those things. So we are looking at increasing the penetration, yes, but it's about ensuring that there is business continuity across the various facets of the Ghanaian industry.
Mercy Nakoshi Bwampong is the CIIG Insurance Professional of the Year and Managing Director of Serene Insurance. That's it for business on Hot Edition, and that's it for Hot Edition as well on 3FM 92.7. My name is Minu Afo. Please do stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs.